Said the show must go on. There's WrestleMania going on. It's all boarded up. The undead are walking outside. Nothing can get in that place. That's crazy, man. What's going on, man? That's some crazy shit. I'm gonna put on the zombie diary.
FM, and if you're hearing this, please stay on this frequency. We're getting reports from the Eastern Port District, multiple emergency calls coming in from the customs facility. Initial reports are saying some kind of medical emergency, possibly chemical exposure. We've got at least 14 people down. Paramedics are on scene. Traffic is being rerouted from Harbor Boulevard and East Maritime Drive. If you're headed that way for work this morning, find an alternate route. We're trying to get more information. The Port Authority isn't giving us much yet, just that there was an incident in one of the cargo inspection areas around 4:30 this morning. Whatever happened,
zombies are out there
fast.
tearing people up,
got there
man.
within 8 minutes of the initial call.
Just bit this woman in the neck by the bar.
We're hearing the word bites being thrown around, which is strange for a cargo facility. Maybe an animal got loose from one of the shipping containers. It wouldn't be the first time. I'm going to stay on this. Keep your radios tuned here. We'll update you as soon as we know more. Traffic on the westbound connector is moving normally. Eastbound is starting to slow near the Port District exits. Again, avoid Harbor Boulevard if you can. It's 6:42 in the morning. Temperature outside is 51 degrees, cloudy skies, chance of rain this afternoon. Now we're getting word that additional ambulances are being dispatched to the port. That's bringing the total to 7 units on scene. For a cargo facility, that's significant. The initial report said 14 injured, but we're now hearing that number might be higher. Some kind of altercation broke out. That's the word being used. Altercation. In a customs inspection bay. Port security has locked down the east terminal. No trucks in or out. That's going to cause backups through the morning, so if your business relies on port deliveries, expect delays. I've been doing this job for 19 years, and I've covered my share of industrial accidents. This one feels different. The silence from official channels is unusual. Normally by now we'd have a statement from the port director or at least a public information officer giving us something to work with. Instead, nothing. Just dispatch chatter and conflicting reports from first responders. One paramedic we spoke to off the record said the injuries don't match anything he's seen before. Described them as aggressive, violent, said some of the wounded were combative, had to be restrained. That's concerning when you're talking about people who are just doing their jobs, inspecting cargo. Let me check the wires here. All right, we've got a brief statement from the Port Authority. I'll read it exactly as written. An incident occurred at approximately 4:35 a.m. in the East Terminal Customs Inspection Area. Multiple personnel sustained injury. The facility has been temporarily secured while authorities assess the situation. Further information will be provided as it becomes available. That tells us almost nothing. Temporarily secured. Multiple personnel injured. We knew that an hour ago. The roads around the port are now completely blocked off. Police have established a perimeter.
John
We're getting
Cena.
reports from drivers
Look,
stuck in the back of
Bianca Belair's pregnant.
in tactical gear.
It's John
That's not
Cena's
standard for an
baby.
industrial accident.
Wow,
Tactical
it's John
response
Cena's
usually
fucking
means
baby,
that's
dude. That's
Whatever was in
crazy.
that cargo container, whatever got loose, it's being treated seriously. It's 7:03 a.m. You're listening to... I want to be clear about something. We're not trying to cause panic here. We're simply reporting what we know and what we're hearing from official sources and witnesses. Right now, the situation is contained to the port facility. There's no indication of danger to the general public. But if you work at the port or have family who does and you haven't heard from them, the Port Authority has set up a family information line. That number is 5. We've just been told that a press conference is scheduled for 8 a.m. That's less than an hour from now. The mayor's office will be making a statement along with the health department and port security. The fact that the health department is involved tells us this isn't just a security incident. There's a medical component. Some of you calling in are asking about the rumors spreading online. I've seen them too. People talking about attacks about infected workers. I want to stress that we have not confirmed any of that. What we know is that people were injured. that some kind of animal may have escaped from a shipping container and that authorities are taking it seriously enough to lock down the facility and bring in tactical unit. Let's not get ahead of the fact. Traffic update. The backup from the port closure is now extending west on the connector past the Riverside exit. You're looking at delays of 30 to 45 minutes if you're coming from that direction. Take the northern bypass if you're trying to get downtown. I'm watching the news feeds, checking social media, trying to piece together what happened in that cargo bay. One of the customs agents who was there, we're not using his name, he managed to get a message to his wife before they locked down communications from inside. He told her they opened a container that wasn't properly documented, said it smelled wrong, said there were animals inside that weren't listed on any manifest. He said when they opened it, something came at them fast. That's the word he used. And then his messages stopped. His wife called us 20 minutes ago. She's scared. She wants to know if he's okay. We don't have an answer for it. It's 7:19 a.m. The sun's coming up now. It's going to be a great morning. Clouds sitting heavy over the city. More ambulances just arrived at the port. We've got a listener who lives in the apartment complex overlooking the east terminal. She's watching from her balcony. She says there are at least 12 emergency vehicles now, maybe more. Says she can see people being loaded into ambulances, but they're not leaving. They're just sitting there. Staging. Maybe. Waiting for clearance to transport. That's odd. When you have injured people, you move them to hospitals immediately. You don't wait, unless there's a contamination concern. Unless you're not sure what you're dealing with. The health department being involved makes more sense now. We're looking at a possible biological exposure scenario. That would explain the lockdown, the tactical response, the delayed transport of the injured. If those animals were carrying something, if customs agents were exposed to a pathogen, they'd need to be isolated, assessed, decontaminated, maybe before being moved to medical facility. That's speculation on my part, but it fits what we're seeing. 7:26 a.m. on 1001.7 FM. I'm Daniel Rothman, and we're staying with this story. Let me take a call here. Go ahead, you're on the air. Yes, hello, this is Marcus. I work at the port. I was supposed to start my shift at 6, but they turned us away at the gate. Wouldn't tell us anything, just said go home. Facility's closed. I've got buddies who are working overnight. I can't reach any of them. Their phones are going straight to voicemail. What's happening in there? Marcus, I wish I had answers for you. We're hearing the same things you are. The facility is locked down, communications are restricted, and we're waiting for official word from the authorities. That press conference at 8 should give us more information. I'd say keep trying to reach your coworkers and monitor this station. We'll update you the moment we know anything. Thanks, yeah. Okay. This is crazy, man. I've worked there 11 years. Never seen anything like this. Stay safe, Marcus. That's the fourth call we've gotten from port workers who can't reach their colleagues inside. Families are starting to worry the information vacuum is making things worse. When people don't know what's happening, they imagine the worst. And maybe they're right to. I'm looking at the live traffic cameras near the port. The police perimeter has expanded. They've pushed it back another 2 blocks. Whatever zone they're trying to contain, it's growing. We've got reports now from a diner on Harbor Boulevard, just outside the perimeter. The owner says police came in 20 minutes ago and told everyone to leave, said they needed to clear the area. Wouldn't explain why. People were in the middle of breakfast, just told them to go. Nah, this is beyond a standard emergency response. 7:34 a.m., temperature holding at 51 degrees. I need to say something here, and I need to say it carefully. We are not in danger sitting in this studio. You are not in danger in your homes, in your cars, listening to this. But something is wrong at the port, something that has authorities worried enough to evacuate buildings, to seal off streets, to deploy what looks like a significant tactical presence. If you live near the Eastern Port District, stay inside, keep your doors locked, monitor this frequency and follow any instructions from emergency services if they come to your neighborhood. This is precautionary. I want to stress that. But precaution is better than regret. We're 17 minutes from the scheduled press conference. I'll bring that to you live as soon as it begins. More calls coming in. I'll take another. You're on. Daniel, this is Sarah. I'm a nurse at Mercy Hospital downtown. We just got notified to prepare for potential incoming patients from the port incident. They're telling us to set up isolation protocols for PPE, negative pressure rooms. They don't do that for normal injuries. They're treating this like an infectious outbreak. I thought you should know. Sarah, thank you for that. That confirms what we were starting to suspect. This is being handled as a biological exposure event. Are they telling you anything about what kind of pathogen you might be dealing with? No, nothing specific. Just to treat it as high-risk airborne precautions, contact precautions, the works. We're standing by, but so far no patients have arrived. I don't know if they're still at the scene or if they're going to a specialized facility instead. All right, Sarah, I appreciate you calling in. Stay safe there. You too. So now we have confirmation from a hospital source. They're preparing for potential infectious patients. That changes the situation significantly. If we're dealing with some kind of pathogen carried by these animals, by this cargo, then everyone who was exposed in that customs bay is potentially infected. And if it spreads through bites, as early reports suggested, then anyone who was bitten is a vector. I don't like where this is going. 7:41 a.m. on... Let me tell you what I'm thinking, and you can disagree with me. You can call in and tell me I'm wrong, but I've covered enough emergencies in this city to recognize patterns. This feels like the kind of situation where the next few hours are critical, where decisions made right now will determine whether this stays contained or whether it spreads. The authorities know something we don't. They knew it before they made that vague statement. They knew it when they expanded the perimeter. They knew it when they told the hospital to prepare isolation wards. What I want to know is what was in that shipping container, what animal species, where it came from, who shipped it, because this wasn't a legitimate cargo shipment. You don't have unmarked containers full of undocumented animals unless something illegal is happening, trafficking. That's what we're talking about. Illegal wildlife trafficking. And whoever was moving those animals, they brought something into this city that doesn't belong here. Something dangerous. The press conference should start in 12 minutes. I'm watching the feed. They're setting up microphones outside the Emergency Operations Center downtown. I can see officials gathering. The mayor is there. Police commissioner, health director, port authority seat. That's a lot of authority in one place for a single incident at a cargo facility. Traffic is still backed up from the port closures. If you're trying to get to work downtown, you're probably stuck. Might want to call ahead, let them know you'll be late. 7:47 a.m. Taking another call. Go ahead. Daniel, my name is Kevin. I'm a truck driver. I was at the port last night making a delivery around 3 a.m. I saw them bring in that container. The one everyone's talking about, it was on a ship from Southeast Asia. That's what the dock workers said. They flagged it because the documentation was wrong. The codes didn't match. Customs pulled it for inspection. I left before they opened it, but I remember thinking it smelled bad even from outside. Like rot. Like death. Kevin, did you see any markings on the container, any identification? No company logos, nothing official, just a serial number. The whole thing fell off. I've been driving ports for 15 years. You get a sense for what's legitimate cargo and what's not. That container wasn't legitimate. Do you know what time they opened it? Had to be around 4:30. I heard it on the radio driving home, heard the emergency calls. I put it together. Thanks for calling, Kevin. That's valuable information. Yeah, well, I hope they contain whatever came out of there. I've got a bad feeling about this. You and me both. So, now we know more. Southeast Asia. Illegal shipment. Animals that smelled like death before the container was even open. What kind of conditions were those animals kept in during transport? What kind of diseases were they carrying? Parasites, bacteria, viruses. Anything could have incubated in that environment. And our customs agents opened it without knowing any of that. 7:52 a.m. The press conference should be starting any moment. I'm watching the feed. The mayor is stepping up to the microphones. Here we go. Good morning. At approximately 4:35 this morning, an incident occurred at the Eastern Port Terminal Customs Facility. During a routine inspection of an unmarked cargo container, several animals of unknown origin escaped and attacked customs personnel. Multiple agents sustained injuries and are currently receiving medical treatment. The animals were carrying a biological agent, a parasitic organism that we are still working to identify. Out of an abundance of caution, we have locked down the affected area and established a quarantine perimeter. The public is not in danger at this time. We ask that residents near the Port District remain indoors until further notice. Avoid the area. Emergency services are on scene and the situation is under control. We will provide updates as more information becomes available. Thank you. That's it. That's the statement. They're not taking questions. The mayor is walking away from the podium. Reporters are shouting after her, but she's not stopping. So let's break down what we just heard. Routine inspection. Animals of unknown origin. Biological agent. Parasitic organism. Quarantine perimeter. They just confirmed this is a parasitic outbreak. And they said the situation is under control, but they also said to stay indoors if you live near the port. Those two statements don't align. If it was truly under control, they wouldn't need to tell people to stay inside. Something is happening that they're not telling us. 7:57 a.m. on... I need you to understand something. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to inform you. There's a difference. Fear comes from not knowing. Information lets you make decisions. Here's what we know for certain. Illegal wildlife shipment arrived at the port from Southeast Asia. Customs opened it early this morning. Animals escaped. Animals bid customs agents. Those agents are now injured and potentially infected with a parasitic organism. The port is locked down. A quarantine zone has been established. Hospitals are preparing isolation wards. That's not a routine incident. That's an emerging infectious disease scenario. The CDC should be involved by now. If they're not already on scene, they will be soon. This is exactly the kind of situation they train for. Zoonotic disease outbreak, animal to human transmission. But parasites work differently than viruses or bacteria. They need a host. They have life cycles. If this parasite spreads through bites, that means it's reaching a stage where it can be transmitted through saliva or blood. That means it's affecting the host's behavior, making them aggressive, making them bite. I've read about parasites like that. Toxoplasma, rabies, certain types of brain-affecting organisms. They hijack the host, change their behavior to facilitate transmission. If that's what we're dealing with, if these customs agents are infected with something that makes them violent, that makes them attack others, then every person they bite becomes a new host. That's how outbreaks spread exponentially. 8:04 a.m. It's been 3.5 hours since the container was open. How many people have been bitten in that time? I'm getting a message here. Hold on. This is from our contact at City Emergency Management. They're saying that some of the injured customs agents became aggressive at the hospital, had to be sedated. Security was called. One agent tried to bite a nurse before they restrained him. It's already spreading beyond the port. If they brought those infected agents to Mercy Hospital and one of them attacked someone there, then the hospital is now a potential exposure site. This is escalating faster than the authorities can respond. 8:07 a.m. on 104.7 FM. I'm Daniel Rothman, and I'm not leaving this microphone until we have a resolution to this situation. Let me take calls. Lines are lighting up. Go ahead, you're on the air. Daniel, I live 3 blocks from the port. I can hear sirens, constant sirens, helicopters overhead. I looked outside and there are military vehicles on my street. Military. When did the military get involved? When did you see them arrive? Maybe 20 minutes ago. 2 big trucks. Soldiers in full gear. They're setting up a checkpoint at the intersection, not letting anyone through. That's beyond a quarantine perimeter. That's martial law preparation. Okay, thank you for calling. Stay inside, keep your doors locked, and stay tuned to this frequency. I don't understand what's happening, Daniel. They said it was under control. I know. Just stay safe. She's scared. I'm scared. And I'm trying not to show it because that's my job, to be the calm voice, the steady presence. But military vehicles on residential streets, that's not standard protocol for a contained situation. The government is preparing for something bigger than they're admitting. 8:12 a.m. Another update from the hospital. The aggressive patient who tried to bite the nurse, he broke free from restraints and attacked 2 security guards before they could subdue him. Both guards were bitten. The patient is now in a locked isolation room, sedated heavily, but he keeps waking up, keeps trying to get out. That's not normal behavior for someone who's injured. That's not shock or confusion. That's something else. The parasite is affecting brain function. It has to be. Aggressive behavior, loss of inhibition, violent outbursts, those are neurological symptoms. And if it's spreading through bites, if those 2 security guards are now infected, then we have secondary transmission. Generation 2. This is how pandemics begin. I need to stay focused. I need to give you information you can use. If you live in the city, particularly anywhere near the Eastern District, do not go outside unless absolutely necessary. If you must leave your home, avoid contact with anyone acting strangely, anyone who seems aggressive or disoriented. Do not approach them. Do not try to help them. I know that sounds harsh, but we don't know enough about how this spreads yet. Keep food and water in your home. Enough for a few days at least. If this situation worsens, if they expand the quarantine zone, supply chains could be disrupted. Charge your devices. Keep your radios on. Stay informed. 8:19 a.m. on traffic cameras near the hospital are showing a heavy police presence now. They've closed off the streets around Mercy Hospital. That confirms what we suspected. The hospital is now part of the containment zone. How many hospitals in this city? 7 major ones. If we lose Mercy to quarantine, that's a significant reduction in emergency medical capacity. And if other hospitals start receiving infected patients, if this spreads to multiple facilities, the entire healthcare system could collapse. I don't say that lightly, but that's the trajectory we're on. We need to know more about this parasite. What it is, how it works, how long the incubation period is, whether there's treatment. The authorities have been silent since that brief press conference. No follow-up, no detailed information, just instructions to stay inside. That tells me they don't have answers yet. Taking another call, you're on the air. Daniel, I'm a biology professor at the university. I've been listening to your coverage, and I need to clarify something about parasites. If this organism spreads through bites and causes aggressive behavior, it's likely affecting the central nervous system. That's consistent with certain types of parasitic infections we've seen in animals. The terrifying thing is how fast it seems to be acting. Most parasites have incubation periods measured in days or weeks. If people are showing symptoms within hours, this is something unprecedented, something highly evolved or artificially accelerated. Artificially accelerated, what does that mean? It means this might not be a naturally occurring parasite. It could be something that was modified intentionally or through unusual environmental conditions. Or it could be a species we've simply never encountered before. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. I think people need to understand the severity of what might be happening. If this parasite can reach the brain in minutes, if it can alter behavior that quickly, then containment will be extremely difficult. Every bite creates a new host almost immediately. So what do we do? How do we stop it? You isolate every infected individual immediately. You identify everyone who had contact with them. You establish hard quarantine zones that cannot be breached. And you do it within the first few hours of the outbreak. After that, it becomes exponentially more difficult. We're already past the first few hours. I know, that's what worries me. Thank you, Professor. That's sobering information, but it's important. Good luck, Daniel. All of us, 8:28 a.m. So now we're talking about a potentially modified or unknown parasite that acts faster than anything we've seen before. That hijacks the brain, causes violent behavior, and spreads through bites. I'm trying to think of historical precedents. Rabies works somewhat similarly, but rabies takes weeks to incubate. This is moving at a completely different speed. There are reports coming in now from other parts of the city. Macaques. People biting other people. At a bus stop downtown. In a grocery store parking lot. Outside an apartment building near the university. The victims match the description of the customs agents. Aggressive, disoriented, violent. This is spreading beyond the port. The quarantine failed. 8:33 a.m. on 104.7 FM. I'm Daniel Rothman, and I'm staying with you through this. The mayor's office just issued an emergency alert. I'm reading it now. All residents are advised to shelter in place until further notice. Do not leave your homes. Do not congregate in public spaces. Avoid contact with anyone exhibiting aggressive or unusual behavior. Emergency services are responding to multiple incidents across the city. Stay tuned to local media for updates. Shelter in place. That's not a suggestion. That's an order. The city is locking down. How many people are infected now? 20? 50? 100? The numbers are impossible to track once it spreads beyond the initial exposure site, and every person who's bitten has minutes before they turn into another vector. I'm watching the news feeds from other stations. Reports are coming in from all over, the Eastern District, downtown, the university area, the northern suburbs. This thing is moving fast. Police are overwhelmed. Dispatch is getting hundreds of calls, attacks, disturbances, people acting violently. The hospitals can't handle this volume. Emergency rooms are filling up with bite victims and violent patients who have to be restrained. The system is breaking down. 8:41 a.m. I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. We are in the early stages of a catastrophic outbreak. I'm not saying that to panic you. I'm saying it because it's true and you deserve to know. The parasite that escaped from that cargo container is spreading faster than the authorities can contain it. People who are infected become violent and attack others. Those victims become infected. The cycle repeats. This is exponential growth. If you are in your home right now, stay there. Lock your doors. Lock your windows. Do not open the door for anyone unless you are absolutely certain it's safe. If you are in your car, get off the roads. Find shelter. Do not stop for anyone. If you are at work, assess your location. If you can secure the building, do it. If not, leave now and get home. This is not the time for normalcy. This is the time for survival decisions. I'm going to stay on the air as long as I can, as long as the power holds, as long as the transmitter keeps broadcasting. You need a source of reliable information, and I'm going to be that for you. 8:47 a.m. on. Reports are coming in that the police are pulling back from certain areas of the city. They're consolidating their positions, focusing on critical infrastructure. That means some neighborhoods are being left without law enforcement presence. If you're in one of those neighborhoods, you need to protect yourself. Lock down. Work with your neighbors if you can. Establish watch shifts. Don't assume help is coming. The fire department is no longer responding to calls in the quarantine zone. Too dangerous. Firefighters have been attacked at multiple scenes. Emergency services are collapsing. The military presence is increasing. I'm seeing reports of National Guard units deploying throughout the city. Checkpoints are being set up at major intersections. Roads are being blocked. They're trying to contain the city itself now. Prevent anyone from leaving. Prevent the infection from spreading to neighboring towns. That's the right move strategically, but it also means we're trapped here. 8:53 a.m. Let me take a call. You're on the air. Daniel, this is Jennifer. I'm a doctor at St. Luke's Hospital on the north side. We just received our first infected patient 20 minutes ago, a woman who was bitten at a coffee shop. She came in lucid, scared, crying. We put her in an exam room, started treatment for the bite wound. Within 10 minutes, she became violent, started screaming, trying to attack the nurses. We had to lock her in the room. She's throwing herself against the door. The sounds she's making, they're not human. This isn't a disease, Daniel. This is something else. Jennifer, how are you protecting your staff? We're trying, but we weren't prepared for this. We don't have enough isolation rooms. We don't have enough restraints. If more patients come in like this, we won't be able to handle them. Are you still admitting patients? For now, but I don't know for how much longer. Some of the staff are already talking about leaving, about going home to their families. I can't blame them. Stay safe, Jennifer. Do what you have to do. That was a doctor telling us the hospitals are losing control. If the hospitals fail, if medical staff abandon their posts, then anyone who's injured, anyone who needs care for any reason, they're on their own. The cascade is beginning. Infrastructure, services, order, all of it is starting to collapse. 9:02 a.m. I'm looking at social media feeds, and it's chaos. Videos of attacks, people running through streets, cars abandoned. Someone posted a video from inside Mercy Hospital showing infected patients breaking out of rooms, overwhelming security. The hospital is lost. Another video from a shopping mall, infected people inside chasing others, screaming, blood on the floors. It's like watching society disintegrate in real time. 9:08 a.m. on Penn. The power grid is still stable, but I don't know for how long. If the workers who maintain the grid abandon their posts, if substations fail, we could lose electricity across the city. Without power, we lose everything. Lights, heat, refrigeration, communication. Modern society requires a functioning grid. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's a possibility we need to consider. If you have flashlights, candles, batteries, make sure they're accessible. If you have a generator, check the fuel. 9:14 a.m. Another emergency alert just came through. This one is different. It's from the federal government. A state of emergency has been declared for the following counties. All residents must comply with quarantine directives. Curfew is in effect from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Violators will be subject to detention. Unauthorized gatherings of more than 2 people are prohibited. Avoid all contact with infected individuals. Use of force is authorized to maintain order. Use of force is authorized. That means the military has rules of engagement now. They can shoot. We've gone from a medical emergency to a military crisis in less than 5 hours. 9:20 a.m. The reality of what's happening is setting in for people. I can hear it in the calls, in the messages we're getting. Panic, confusion, anger. Someone just asked me if this is the end. I don't know. I don't have that answer. What I know is that a parasitic organism is spreading through our city, that it turns people violent, that it's overwhelming our emergency systems, and that the government is responding with military force. What happens next depends on whether they can contain it, whether they can stop the spread before it reaches a critical mass. How many people live in this city? Just over 2 million. If even 1% of the population is infected, that's 20,000 vectors, 20,000 violent, aggressive people trying to bite others. The math is terrifying. 9:27 a.m. I'm getting reports that some people are trying to leave the city, packing their cars, heading for the highways, but the roads are blocked. Military checkpoints. No one gets through. They're shooting at people who try to run the checkpoint. Someone just called in saying her husband was killed trying to leave, shot by soldiers at the western barricade. This is real. This is happening. The city is a cage now. 9:34 a.m. Let me read you something. This is from an email I just received from someone who claims to work for the CDC. I can't verify the source, but the information seems credible. The organism is a parasitic nematode of unknown origin. It invades the central nervous system within minutes of exposure. Once it reaches the brain, it hijacks the amygdala and hypothalamus, triggering extreme aggression and eliminating fear response. The host becomes singularly focused on biting and spreading the parasite. There is no known treatment. Infected individuals do not recover. The mortality rate appears to be 100%, though death is delayed until the parasite completes its life cycle, which we estimate to be 72 to 96 hours. During that time, the host remains ambulatory and aggressive. This is the most dangerous zoonotic outbreak we have ever encountered, 72 to 96 hours. That means the people who were infected this morning, the customs agents, the hospital staff, they'll be active, violent, and spreading the parasite for 3 to 4 days before they die. And in that time, how many others will they infect? No known treatment. 100% mortality rate. This isn't something we can cure. This is something we can only contain. 9:41 a.m. I'm Daniel Rothman, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm scared. I've been in this business long enough to maintain composure to present information without emotion. But right now, in this moment, I'm terrified of what's happening to our city. I keep thinking about the people at the port, the customs agents who are just doing their jobs. They opened a container, they didn't know what was inside, and now they're either dead or dying, and they've infected dozens of others. One container, one shipment, that's all it took to bring this down on us. Whoever trafficked those animals, wherever they are, they've unleashed something that might destroy this entire city. 9:48 a.m. More reports coming in. Schools are being evacuated. Hospitals are diverting ambulances. Police stations are under siege from infected people trying to get inside. The infrastructure is collapsing faster than I anticipated. 9:53 a.m. Someone is banging on the door of the station. I can hear it from here down the hallway. Heavy, aggressive banging. Security went to check. I'm alone in the studio now, just me and this microphone. The banging stopped. I don't know if that's good or bad. 9:58 a.m. I'm going to keep broadcasting until I can't anymore. That's the job. That's what you need from me. Stay inside. Protect yourselves. Trust no one who's acting strangely. This is 10. If you're still listening, thank you. You're not alone. I'm here with 10:04 a.m. The city is burning, literally. I can see smoke from the window. Multiple fires across the skyline. No one is responding to them. The fire department is gone. Buildings are going to burn unchecked until there's nothing left. 10:11 a.m. Power just flickered. It came back, but that was a warning. If we lose power, I lose the ability to broadcast. The transmitter runs on electricity. There's a backup generator, but I don't know how much fuel we have. I'm going to keep going as long as I can. 10:18 a.m. Another message from the mayor's office. They're evacuating City Hall. The building has been breached by infected people. Officials are being moved to a secure location. The seat of government is abandoning the city. 10:24 a.m. I need to tell you something about human nature. In a crisis, some people rise to the occasion. They become leaders, protectors, heroes. But others, they break. They panic, they lash out, they become part of the problem. Right now in this city, both types are revealing themselves. I'm hearing stories of neighbors helping neighbors, people barricading buildings together, sharing supplies. That's the good. But I'm also hearing about looting, violence, people attacking each other over food and water. That's the bad. Society is a thin veneer. When pressure is applied, it cracks. We're seeing the cracks now. 10:31 a.m. The military is pulling back to defensive positions. They're not trying to contain the entire city anymore. They're protecting specific zones. Government buildings, power plants, water treatment facilities, critical infrastructure. Everyone else is on their own. That's the calculus they've made. Save what can be saved. Let the rest fall. 10:37 a.m. I wonder how many people are still listening. Are you in your home huddled with your family, hoping this will pass? Are you alone like me, waiting for the inevitable? Or have you already left your radio behind, focused on survival, on getting through the next hour? I don't blame you if you have. 10:43 a.m. The banging on the door is back. Louder this time. More insistent. Security hasn't come back. I don't think they're coming back. I've locked the studio door. It's not much, but it's something. 10:49 a.m. If this is my last broadcast, I want to say something. To everyone who's listening, to everyone who's still out there, you are not alone. Even in the darkest moments, even when it feels like everything is falling apart, there are others fighting to survive, others who care, others who refuse to give up. Hold on to that. Hold on to each other. 10:55 a.m. The door is shaking. Someone is throwing their body against it. I can hear them. Growling, snarling, not words, just sound. The lock won't hold much longer. 11:01 a.m. This is Daniel Rothman on... If you're hearing this, stay strong. The door just splintered. Wood cracking, hinges giving way. I can see movement through the gap. I'm not ready for this. I thought I'd have more time. 11:03 a.m. They're inside the studio now. I'm backing away from the microphone, but I'm going to keep talking as long as I can. To whoever is listening, to whoever survives this, remember that we tried to warn people, to give information, to hold society together, even as it fell apart. Remember that there were people who stayed at their posts, who did their jobs, who didn't run when things got bad. Remember the customs agents who just wanted to do their work, the doctors and nurses who tried to help the infected, the police officers who stood their ground, the firefighters who went into burning buildings. Remember that humanity is more than this outbreak, more than this parasite, more than the violence and the chaos. We are capable of great things, of love, of sacrifice, of courage, in the face of impossible odds. Don't let this be the end of that. 11:06 a.m. They're getting closer. 3 of them, maybe 4. I can't tell anymore. Their eyes are wrong, empty but somehow focused, like they're looking at me but not seeing me, just seeing prey. The parasite has taken everything that made them human and replaced it with one simple directive: spread, survive, to effect. 11:08 a.m. I'm thinking about my family. They're not in the city, thank God. They're 200 miles away, safe behind whatever perimeter the military has established. I hope they stay safe. I hope this doesn't reach them. I hope someone finds a way to stop this before it spreads beyond the quarantine zone. Because if it gets out, if it reaches other cities, other countries, then this isn't just a local disaster. This is a global catastrophe. 11:10 a.m. One of them just lunged at me. I dodged barely, knocked over a chair. The microphone is picking up everything now. I can hear myself breathing, fast, panicked. The adrenaline is overwhelming. Fight or flight, they call it. But there's nowhere to fly to. The studio is 20 feet by 15 feet. One door, one window that doesn't open. This is where I make my stand. 11:12 a.m. I've grabbed a metal stand, the kind we use for microphones. It's not much of a weapon, but it's something. They're circling me now, moving with that strange twitchy coordination, not quite running, not quite walking. Something in between. The parasite has optimized them for pursuit, for hunting. 11:14 a.m. I just swung the stand at the closest one, connected with his shoulder. He barely reacted, just kept coming. No pain response. The parasite has shut that down too. They don't feel pain, don't feel fear, don't feel anything except the need to spread. That makes them incredibly dangerous. 11:16 a.m. I'm cornered now, back against the window. Nowhere left to go. All 4 of them are in front of me, moving in slowly. They have time. They know I can't escape. This is it. This is how it ends. Not with some heroic last stand. Not with a dramatic speech. Just a man alone in a radio studio, about to be overwhelmed by infected people who used to be human. 11:18 a.m. I want my last words to matter. I want to say something profound, something that will help whoever hears this recording. But all I can think is how much I wish this hadn't happened. How much I wish those animals had never been trafficked, never been shipped to this city, never been opened by those customs agents. How much I wish I told my family I loved them one more time before everything fell apart. 11:19 a.m. They're lunging now, all at once. I can't fight them all. The stand is knocked from my hands. I'm falling. They're on top of me. I can feel teeth on my arm, my shoulder, my neck. The pain is incredible. But worse than the pain is the knowledge of what's coming. In a few minutes, the parasite will reach my brain, and I'll become one of them. Another vector, another infected. 11:21 a.m. The biting has stopped. They've moved away from me. Standing over me, waiting for the transformation. I can feel something moving under my skin, crawling, burrowing. The parasite is racing through my bloodstream, heading for my central nervous system. I don't have much time left. 11:23 a.m. My vision is getting strange. Colors too bright, sounds too loud. The microphone in front of me is glowing, pulsing with light that shouldn't be there. Hallucinations. The parasite affecting my sensory processing. I can still think clearly, but I know that won't last. Soon the aggression will take over. Soon I'll be like them. Mindless, violent, driven only to bite, to spread, to infect. 11:25 a.m. I'm trying to hold on to myself, trying to remember who I am. Daniel Rothman, radio broadcaster, 19 years at this station, married, 2 kids. Daughter just graduated college. Son still in high school. I love them. I love them so much. I'm sorry I won't see them again. I'm sorry I couldn't stop this. 11:27 a.m. on. The rage is building now. I can feel it rising from somewhere deep in my brain. Primal. Uncontrollable. The parasite is taking over. I'm losing myself. I'm losing. 11:28 a.m. The microphone is still on. The transmitter is still broadcasting. But Daniel Rothman is gone. What's left is something else. Something that stands up on unsteady legs. Something that looks around the studio with new eyes. Something that turns and walks out of the broken door following the others, hunting for new hosts. The frequency continues to broadcast, but there is no voice, just silence, and the distant sounds of a city in collapse. 11:41 a.m. The studio sits empty now. Equipment still running, lights still on. The microphone waits for a voice that will never return. On the streets below, chaos reigns. Fires spreading unchecked. Sirens wailing. Gunfire echoing between buildings. The infected roam in growing numbers, hunting the uninfected. The military holds its perimeter, shooting anyone who tries to cross. The hospitals have fallen. The police stations have fallen. The government has evacuated. The city is dying. 12:04 p.m. In a basement 3 miles from the radio station, a family huddles around a battery-powered radio. They've been listening to Daniel Rothman all morning. They heard everything. The news reports, the emergency alerts, the growing panic. And they heard the end, the attack, the infection, the silence. The mother is crying. The father holds their children close. They know they're on their own now. No more information coming from the outside. No more guidance from authorities. Just survival. Just making it through each hour without being found by the infected. 12:23 p.m. The military command center 50 miles outside the city is in full crisis mode. Generals and politicians arguing over strategy. Some want to send in troops to try to retake the city to save who can be saved. Others want to abandon it completely, to write off the entire population as lost. And a few, the ones who understand the true scope of the threat, are talking about more extreme measures. Measures that would ensure the parasite never leaves the quarantine zone. Measures that would involve fire and bombs and the complete destruction of everything inside the perimeter. 12:47 p.m. The president is on a secure call with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They're showing her satellite imagery of the city, heat signatures indicating thousands of infected roaming the streets. Projections showing exponential growth over the next 48 hours. Models predicting total population conversion within a week. She asks about survivors. They tell her the number is unknown. Tens of thousands maybe, hiding in homes and buildings. She asks about rescue operations. They tell her it's impossible, too dangerous, too many infected. Any rescue team would be overwhelmed within minutes. She asks about containment. They tell her the perimeter is holding for now, but they can't guarantee it will hold if the infected mass at the checkpoints. She asks what they recommend. There's a long silence. Then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs speaks. Sterilization protocol. Complete eradication of all biological material within the quarantine zone. She knows what that means. 1:13 p.m. The decision hasn't been made yet, but it's coming. The military is already positioning assets, strategic bombers on standby, fuel air explosives being loaded, incendiary weapons prepared. If the order comes, they'll be ready. The city will burn, everything and everyone inside it, the infected, the survivors, all of it reduced to ash, because the parasite cannot be allowed to spread. 1:39 p.m. Back at the radio station, the studio remains empty. The equipment continues to run on backup power. The transmitter continues to broadcast silent. But something is happening in the building. Infected people are gathering, drawn by some instinct, some function of the parasite's hive behavior. They fill the hallways, the offices, the break room, dozens of them, then hundreds. The building becomes a nest, a staging ground. 2:06 p.m. The sun is high in the sky now. The gray clouds from this morning have burned off. It's a beautiful day, which makes the horror below even more stark. From above, from satellites and drones, the city looks apocalyptic. Fires raging out of control, entire blocks consumed by flames, abandoned cars clogging every street, bodies lying in intersections, on sidewalks and parks, and among it all the infected, moving in groups, hunting, spreading. 2:28 p.m. A scientist at a research facility is studying samples taken from the early victims. The parasite under a microscope. It's unlike anything in the medical literature. The complexity of its nervous system, the speed of its reproductive cycle, the efficiency of its transmission mechanism. This isn't a natural organism. Or if it is, it's from an ecosystem we've never encountered. The scientist writes in a report, this appears to be a parasitic species that evolved in conditions of extreme selection pressure. Possibly an isolated population that developed hyper-aggressive transmission strategies due to limited host availability, or possibly something engineered, though I find that less likely given the biological sophistication involved. Whatever its origin, it represents an existential threat to human civilization if not contained immediately. She sends the report to her superior. It will reach the president's desk within the hour. It won't change the decision that's already being made. 2:51 p.m. In homes across the city, survivors are making impossible choices. The father has barricaded his family in their apartment. They have food for maybe 3 days, water for 5 if they ration, but infected people are in the hallway outside, banging on doors, testing locks. It's only a matter of time before they get in. He looks at his wife, at his 2 young daughters. He thinks about what will happen if they're bitten, what they'll become. The gun in his hand feels heavy. He prays he won't have to use it on his family, but he's prepared to if he must. Better a quick death than transformation into those things. 3:14 p.m. The police officer is still at her post, manning a barricade on the northern edge of the city. She's been here since 7 this morning. 12 hours of watching people try to flee, of turning them back, of following orders she doesn't fully understand. Shoot anyone who tries to cross. She's fired her weapon 16 times today. 16 people dead because they wanted to escape. She doesn't know if they were infected or just scared. The orders don't distinguish. She's thinking about leaving, about abandoning her post and joining the refugees. But where would she go? The entire region is locked down. The military perimeter extends for 100 miles in every direction. There's nowhere to run. 3:38 p.m. The radio station's backup generator is running out of fuel. The power has been flickering for the past hour. Soon it will die completely and the broadcast will end. 104.7 FM will go silent. The last connection to the world before everything fell apart. 3:52 p.m. A news helicopter is filming the city from a safe distance. The footage is being broadcast nationally. The whole country is watching. Images of smoke and fire, of abandoned streets, of infected people swarming through downtown. The newscasters are calling it unprecedented, a tragedy, a nightmare scenario. But they're also relieved because it's contained to one city, one quarantine zone. It's not spreading. Not yet. 4:17 p.m. The president makes her decision. Operation Cleansing Fire is authorized. The military mobilizes immediately. Bombers lift off from 3 different air bases. The payload, incendiary weapons designed to create firestorms hot enough to sterilize every living thing in the target area. The attack will begin at dusk. That gives survivors 5 more hours. 5 more hours to hide, to pray, to make peace with what's coming. 4:43 p.m. Word of the operation is leaked. People are posting about it online. Journalists are reporting it. Survivors in the city are hearing the rumors on what's left of the emergency broadcast system. The government is going to bomb the city. Everyone inside is going to die. Panic spreads faster than the parasite ever could. 5:09 p.m. In the basement, the family that was listening to Daniel Rothman's broadcast has heard the news. The father is trying to decide what to do. Stay here and wait for the bombs? Try to make a run for the perimeter? Both options seem hopeless. His wife is praying. The children are crying. He wishes he could tell them everything will be okay. But he can't lie to them. Not now. 5:34 p.m. The radio station's generator finally dies. The lights go out, the equipment powers down. The transmitter falls silent. 104.7 FM broadcast, nothing but static now. Daniel Rothman's final transmission is over. 5:58 p.m. The sun is setting. The sky is painted orange and red, beautiful and terrible. In the military command center, the final authorization is given. The bombers are inbound. Estimated time to target, 18 minutes. 6:03 p.m. The infected don't know what's coming. They don't understand concepts like bombers or missiles or firestorms. They only know hunger, the drive to spread, the compulsion to bite. They gather in groups, packs of hundreds, moving through the city, looking for survivors to convert. 6:11 p.m. A woman stands on the roof of her apartment building. She's watching the horizon. She can see the bombers approaching, dark shapes against the fading light. She knows she's going to die, but she's made peace with it. Better to die as herself than to live as one of those things. She closes her eyes and waits. 6:16 p.m. The first bombs fall. Massive explosions light up the city. Buildings collapse, streets crater, the ground shakes, and then the fire comes. Walls of flame sweep through neighborhoods, consuming everything. The temperature rises to thousands of degrees in seconds. Glass melts, metal warps, concrete cracks and crumbles. Living things are vaporized instantly. The infected, the survivors, everyone and everything. All of it gone in the fire. 6:23 p.m. The bombing continues for 47 minutes. Wave after wave of ordnance. The city becomes an inferno, a funeral pyre for 2 million people. By 7:08 p.m. it's over. The bombers return to base. The fires burn on, but they're already dying down. There's nothing left to fuel them. The quarantine zone is a wasteland of ash and rubble. Not a single building stands intact. Not a single life remains. The parasite is dead. The infected are dead. The survivors are dead. Mission accomplished. 7:31 p.m. The president addresses the nation. She explains the decision, the threat the parasite posed, the impossibility of containment through conventional means. She calls it a tragedy, a necessary sacrifice. She assures the public that the danger is over. The parasite died in the fire. The quarantine zone will remain sealed for 6 months as a precaution, but no further spread is expected. She asks the nation to mourn those who were lost, to remember them not as victims of a disaster, but as heroes who gave their lives to prevent a global catastrophe. The speech is well received. Most people are relieved, scared, but relieved. It's over. They're safe. 8:42 p.m. In a shipping facility in Singapore, customs officials are preparing to inspect the container that arrived earlier today. The documentation is incomplete. The codes don't match. Standard procedure is to open it and verify the content. One of the agents comments that it smells strange, like rot, like death. They open the container. 9:06 p.m. The radio station that was 104.7 FM no longer exists. It's buried under 20 feet of rubble and ash. The transmitter is destroyed. The studio is obliterated. Daniel Rothman's microphone is melted slag. But somewhere in the ruins, if you listen carefully, you might hear an echo, a ghost of a transmission, a voice that once spoke to millions, trying desperately to keep them safe, to give them information, to be their anchor in the storm. This is Daniel Rothman, and I'm still here in the static, in the silence, in the memory of everyone who listened, telling you to stay safe, to protect yourself, to hold on to your humanity even when everything else falls apart. Because that's all we have in the end, each other, and the hope that somewhere, somehow, someone will survive, someone will remember, someone will learn from our mistakes, and maybe, just maybe, they'll do better than we did. Stay strong, stay together. 9:53 p.m. In the ashes of what was once a thriving city, nothing moves. The firestorm is past, leaving behind a landscape that barely resembles the urban center it was 12 hours ago. The heat was so intense that sand in the streets is fused into glass. Metal streetlights have melted into twisted sculptures. Concrete buildings have been reduced to powder. The military maintains its perimeter, watching through thermal imaging cameras for any sign of life. There is none. 10:17 p.m. At CDC headquarters in Atlanta, scientists are reviewing every piece of data collected from the outbreak. Blood samples from the early victims, tissue biopsies, microscope images of the parasite, genetic sequencing data. They're trying to understand what happened to identify the organism to determine its origin. Dr. Rebecca Chen has been working for 16 hours straight. Her eyes burn from staring at computer screens. Her back aches from hunching over microscopes, but she can't stop. Somewhere in this data is the key to preventing another outbreak. Somewhere in these samples is information that could save millions of lives. 10:41 p.m. The genetic sequence isn't matching anything in the database. Dr. Chen runs it again, thinking there must be an error. Same result. This parasite shares DNA markers with several known nematode species, but the combination is unique, impossible even. It's as if someone took genetic material from multiple organisms and combined them deliberately. But that's ridiculous. Genetic engineering of parasites is theoretically possible, but the sophistication required would be beyond any current lab's capability, unless it wasn't engineered. Unless it evolved naturally in some isolated ecosystem. Dr. Chen pulls up a map showing the shipping route of the container. It originated in Indonesia, passed through Malaysia, stopped in Thailand, then across the Pacific to the west coast. She zooms in on the Indonesian origin point, a small port town on the coast of Sumatra. Not a major city, not a research hub, just a fishing village with a deep water dock. Why would illegal wildlife trafficking originate from there? 11:03 p.m. Dr. Chen sends an urgent message to her contacts at the World Health Organization. She needs information about that Indonesian port town, about what species live in the surrounding jungle, about any unusual disease outbreaks in the region. The response comes back within 20 minutes. The town Palabuan Kasil has a population of about 8,000. The surrounding jungle is largely unexplored, considered too remote and dangerous for scientific expeditions. Local reports mention strange illnesses among hunters who venture too deep into the interior, animals found dead with unusual lesions, monkeys exhibiting aggressive behavior, but nothing concrete, nothing studied, just rumors and folklore. Dr. Chen's blood runs cold. If the parasite originated in that jungle, if there's a natural reservoir of infected animals there, then the container that reached the city wasn't a one-time incident. It was one shipment among many. 11:28 p.m. She picks up the phone and calls her supervisor. It's almost midnight, but this can't wait. The supervisor answers on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Dr. Chen explains what she's found. The genetic analysis, the Indonesian origin point, the implication. There's a long silence on the other end of the line. Then I'll notify WHO and State Department immediately. We need to shut down that trafficking network before another shipment reaches a populated area. It might already be too late, Dr. Chen said. I know. 11:56 p.m. Midnight approaches. It's been 20 hours since the customs agents opened that container. 20 hours since the first infection. 14 hours since the city was bombed into oblivion. And in that time, how many other containers have been shipped? How many other ports have received illegal wildlife shipments from Indonesia? The trafficking network operates globally. Shipments go to dozens of countries every week. If even a fraction of those shipments contain infected animals, the world is looking at multiple simultaneous outbreaks, each one requiring the same response: immediate quarantine, military containment, and potentially complete destruction of affected areas. How many cities can the world afford to lose? 12:09 a.m. In Geneva, WHO emergency protocols are being activated. Alerts are being sent to member nations: inspect all wildlife shipments from Southeast Asia, quarantine any suspicious containers. Do not open them without full biohazard precautions. But the warnings are vague. They don't mention the parasite specifically. They don't explain the danger, because the full details are still classified. The bombing of the city hasn't been publicly acknowledged as a response to a biological outbreak. The official story is a gas explosion at a chemical plant that triggered a massive fire. The truth is too terrifying to release. 12:33 a.m. In Tokyo, customs officials received the W2AO alert. They review their records from the past week. 3 containers from Indonesia, all flagged for inspection. 2 already cleared and delivered. 1 still in the facility awaiting processing. The officials look at each other. Should they reopen the 2 containers that were already cleared, track down where they were delivered, or focus on the one still in the facility? They decide on the latter: less risk, less public exposure. They don't know that one of the cleared containers was delivered to a private zoo in the suburbs. The zoo opened it yesterday, 12:58 a.m. The night security guard at the Tokyo Zoo is making his rounds. Something feels off. The animals are agitated, the monkeys are screaming, the birds are silent. He walks past the new primate enclosure, the one that just received a shipment of rare macaques. The cage door is open. His flashlight beam sweeps the enclosure. Empty. The monkeys are gone. 10:14 a.m. The guard calls his supervisor, reports the escape. The supervisor is annoyed but not panicked. Escaped monkeys are a nuisance, not a crisis. They'll probably be found hiding somewhere in the facility. He tells the guard to search the grounds, bring some fruit to lure them back. The guard sets off with a bag of bananas. He finds the first monkey 10 minutes later crouched behind a dumpster. It looks wrong. Its movements are too jerky, its eyes too vacant. He approaches slowly, holding out a banana. The monkey turns to look at him and lunges. 1:37 a.m. The supervisor arrives at the zoo after receiving a frantic, incoherent call from the security guard, something about being attacked, about biting, about blood. He finds the guard near the dumpster lying motionless. Dead? Unconscious? The supervisor kneels down to check. The guard's eyes snap open, and he bites. 1:59 a.m. By the time the next shift arrives at 7 a.m., 4 people are infected. The guard, the supervisor, 2 other staff members who came to investigate, all of them showing the same symptoms seen in the city outbreak: aggression, loss of communication, single-minded focus on biting others, the parasite is spreading again. In a new city, a new country, a city of 14 million people, 226A. Back at CDC headquarters, Dr. Chen is still working. She's received new information from WHO contacts in Southeast Asia. In the past 6 months, there have been 14 documented cases of unusual aggressive behavior in people who worked with recently imported animals. 6 cases in Europe, 4 in North America, 3 in Asia, 1 in Australia. All of the animals originated from the same region of Indonesia. All of the cases were dismissed as isolated incidents, drug-induced psychosis, mental breaks, rabies maybe. Nobody connected them. Nobody saw the pattern. Until now, Dr. Chan creates a map, plotting each case. The distribution is global. The trafficking network has already seeded the parasite across multiple continents. She sits back in her chair, feeling the weight of realization. The city wasn't an isolated outbreak. It was just the first one large enough to notice. 2:48 a.m. She tries to calculate the odds. If 14 people have been infected over 6 months, and each outbreak follows the same exponential pattern as the city, and if even half of those 14 cases have already spread to others, the numbers are staggering. Potentially thousands of infected people scattered across the globe, each one a time bomb waiting to trigger a local outbreak, and every outbreak requires the same response: total destruction of the affected area. How many cities can be sacrificed before the global infrastructure collapses? Before the military runs out of resources? Before people refuse to follow quarantine orders knowing they'll be bombed anyway? 3:09 a.m. The phone rings. It's her supervisor again. We have a situation in Tokyo. Possible outbreak at a zoo. Japanese authorities are requesting immediate assistance. Dr. Chen closes her eyes. It started. Send me everything they have, case details, timeline, number of exposed individuals, and get me on the next flight to Tokyo. You're already exhausted, Rebecca. We can send someone else. No, I know this parasite. I know how it behaves. I'm going. 3:34 a.m. While Dr. Chen packs for Tokyo, emergency protocols are being activated across Japan. The zoo has been locked down, roads blocked, a 2-mile perimeter established, but 4 infected people had 6 hours to wander before being contained. Where did they go? Who did they encounter? Tokyo Metropolitan Police are reviewing security footage from the area, trying to trace their movement. The first infected person, the security guard, walked 3 blocks before collapsing in an alley. He bit 2 people during that walk, a homeless man and a convenience store clerk. The supervisor drove his car erratically through the suburbs, running red lights, crashing into parked vehicles. He stumbled into a 24-hour restaurant and attacked 3 customers before being subdued. The 2 staff members never left the zoo grounds. They're contained. But the homeless man, the store clerk, and the 3 restaurant customers are all missing. That's 8 secondary infections. And 6 hours is enough time for the parasite to reach their brains. Enough time for them to start spreading it to others. 4:06 a.m. The sun is rising over what used to be a city in America. The quarantine zone is being monitored by satellites and drones. No movement, no heat signatures, no signs of life. The firestorm was effective. Total sterilization. At the cost. 2 million people. Gone. Erased from existence in less than an hour. History will remember this day. The day a government chose to bomb its own city. The day survival required sacrifice on an unimaginable scale. 4:31 a.m. In Tokyo, dawn is breaking. The city is waking up unaware of the crisis developing in the suburbs. Trains are running, people are commuting to work, life continues normally, but in the hospitals, emergency rooms are starting to see unusual cases. The homeless man brought in by police, violent and incoherent, a store clerk who came to work but attacked her manager. 3 people from a restaurant, all showing signs of rabies-like symptoms. The doctors don't make the connection. How could they? There's been no public announcement about the zoo incident. No warning about a potential outbreak. The Japanese government is trying to contain information while they assess the situation. But information leaks faster than parasite spread. 4:57 a.m. A nurse at Tokyo General Hospital posts on social media about the strange cases in the ER. People acting violently, trying to bite staff, having to be restrained. She doesn't mean to cause panic. She's just venting about a difficult shift. But the post goes viral within minutes. People remember seeing news about the American city, the mysterious explosion, the complete destruction. They start connecting dots. making assumptions. Some are right, many are wrong. But the panic spreads regardless. 5:23 a.m. The Japanese Prime Minister is being briefed on the situation. 8 confirmed infections, unknown number of secondary exposures. Outbreak centered on northwest Tokyo suburbs. The American CDC is sending a specialist. She'll arrive this afternoon. But the Prime Minister wants to know what happened in America. What was the real story behind the destruction of that city? His advisors tell him the truth. Parasitic outbreak, rapid spread, no known treatment, total quarantine failure. The city was bombed to prevent global catastrophe. The Prime Minister looks at the map of Tokyo, 14 million people, one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world. Can't be bombed without international repercussion. Too many foreign nationals, too much critical infrastructure, too important economically. We have to contain this differently, he says. His advisors nod, but nobody offers an alternative plan. 5:49 a.m. In the suburbs, the 8 secondary infections are now third-generation spreaders. Each has bitten multiple people during the early morning hours. The convenience store clerk's family, the homeless man's shelter mates, the restaurant customers' roommates, and co-workers. Conservative estimate, 30 new infections, and the progression is accelerating. The parasite is learning, adapting, becoming more efficient with each generation. 6:14 a.m. Dr. Chen boards a military transport plane at Andrews Air Force Base. The flight to Tokyo will take 13 hours. She tries to sleep but can't. Her mind keeps running through scenarios, calculations, models. In the American city, it took 16 hours from first infection to complete systemic collapse. Tokyo has already had 8 hours. By the time she lands, it might be too late. 6:37 a.m. The Japanese government makes a decision. Full lockdown of the affected wards. Nobody in or out. Public transportation suspended. Schools closed. Businesses shut down. They're treating it as a localized emergency. Gas leak, chemical spill. Pick a cover story. But the real goal is containment. Wall off the infected areas. Let the outbreak burn itself out within a controlled space. It's a gamble. If the quarantine holds, they might save the city. If it fails, they face the same choice America did. 7:03 a.m. People in the lockdown zones are angry. They're being forced to stay in their homes with no clear explanation. Police and military are manning barriers at every street corner. Anyone who tries to leave is turned back. Some comply. Others resist. Arguments. Confrontations. A few arrests. But the authorities are firm. The quarantine will hold. Until it doesn't. 7:29 a.m. An infected man breaks through a police barrier. He's strong. The parasite has enhanced his physical capabilities, flooding his system with adrenaline, shutting down pain responses, maximizing muscular performance. He overpowers 2 officers before being shot. It takes 3 bullets to bring him down. The officers he fought are both bitten, deep wounds on their arms, and they're rushed to a field hospital within the quarantine zone. But it's too late. The damage is done. 2 more infections, 2 more vectors, and these are trained police officers. Armed, mobile, capable of traveling farther and faster than civilian victims. 7:56 a.m. The situation is deteriorating rapidly. Reports are flooding in from across the quarantine zone. More attacks, more infections, more breakdowns in order. The Japanese self-defense forces are being mobilized. Troops with full biohazard gear, armored vehicles, heavy weapons. They're establishing a secondary perimeter outside the first. A fallback position in case the primary containment fails. 8:21 a.m. In the quarantine zone, a woman named Akiko Tanaka is hiding in her apartment with her 8-year-old daughter. They heard the commotion outside, the screaming, the gunfire. Akiko has barricaded the door with furniture. She's closed the blinds. She's trying to keep her daughter calm. Everything will be okay, she whispers. The police will fix this, but she doesn't believe it. She can hear infected people in the hallway, banging on doors, making those terrible sounds. Not quite human, not quite animal. Something in between. 8:47 a.m. Dr. Chen's plane is somewhere over the Pacific. She's reviewing data on a laptop, trying to prepare. But every model she runs shows the same result. Exponential spread, systemic collapse, total containment failure. The only variable is time. How long until the quarantine breaks? How long until the Japanese government faces the same decision America did? She thinks about the people in Tokyo. Millions of them going about their lives, unaware of how close they are to annihilation. She thinks about the city that was destroyed, the survivors who were burned alive to stop the spread. She thinks about Daniel Rothman, the radio broadcaster who died trying to warn people. His voice in the darkness, his refusal to abandon his post. Heroes don't always survive. Sometimes they just buy time for others to escape. 9:13 a.m. In Tokyo, the first signs of panic are appearing outside the quarantine zone. People have heard rumors, seen social media posts, connected the dots. Some are leaving the city voluntarily, packing cars, heading for rural areas, anywhere that feels safer than a dense urban center. Others are stocking up on supplies, crowding grocery stores, buying canned food, water, batteries, anything that might help them survive a prolonged emergency. The government hasn't officially confirmed anything, but people know something is wrong. The silence is more frightening than any announcement could be. 9:38 a.m. Inside the quarantine zone, Akiko Tanaka makes a decision. They can't stay here. The infected will eventually break through the barricade. She needs to get her daughter out. Needs to find safety, a military checkpoint somewhere with armed guards who can protect them. She takes her daughter's hand and quietly moves the furniture away from the door, opens it carefully, peers into the hallway. Empty. They slip out and head for the stairwell. 10:04 a.m. They make it to the ground floor without incident. The lobby of their apartment building is trashed, broken glass, overturned furniture, blood on the wall, but no infected in sight. Akiko leads her daughter toward the exit. They're 10 feet from the door when they hear movement behind them. She turned. 3 infected people are emerging from a side hallway, moving fast, coming straight for them. Akiko pushes her daughter toward the door. Run. The girl hesitates, crying, reaching for her mother. Go. 10:09 a.m. The daughter makes it outside. Akiko doesn't. The infected are on her before she can follow. She fights, scratches, kicks, screams. But there are 3 of them and one of her. Teeth sink into her shoulder, her arm, her leg. The pain is excruciating. But worse is knowing her daughter is watching from outside, crying, screaming for her mother. Get help, Akiko manages to shout before the infected drag her down. Find soldiers, tell them, be safe. Those are her last coherent words. 10:26 a.m. The daughter runs through empty streets, sobbing alone. She's 8 years old. She doesn't understand what's happening. She just knows her mother told her to run and find soldiers. So that's what she does. She runs until her legs burn, until she can barely breathe. And then she sees them. Military vehicles, armed soldiers, a checkpoint blocking the street. She runs toward them, waving her arms, crying for help. The soldiers see her, a child alone, coming from the quarantine zone. Their orders are clear, nobody leaves. Shoot anyone who tries to cross. But she's a child. The soldiers hesitate. 10:31 a.m. The ranking officer makes a decision. Hold your fire. I'm bringing her in. He walks out to meet the girl, kneels down, speaks gently. Are you hurt? Did anyone bite you? The girl shakes her head. She's crying too hard to speak clearly. Where are your parents? My mother, she says. The bad people got my mother. She told me to run, to find soldiers, to be safe. The officer looks back at his men, then at the girl. You're safe now. We'll take care of you. He carries her back to the checkpoint, calls for a medic to examine her. No bites, no scratches. She's clean. They put her in a vehicle, give her water and food, try to comfort her, but they don't know that in her panic and terror, running through the streets of the quarantine zone, she brushed past an infected person in an alley. Don't know that the infected person's saliva got on her arm where her sleeve was torn. Don't know that the parasite can enter through any mucous membrane or open wound, no matter how small. Don't know that she's infected. 11:02 a.m. Dr. Chen's plane crosses the international date line. She checks the time, recalculates their arrival. 5 more hours until they land in Tokyo. She receives an update via satellite link. Quarantine zone in Tokyo has expanded to include 4 wards. Estimated 50,000 people trapped inside. Confirmed infections now exceed 200. Unknown number of secondary exposures. Situation critical. Japanese government requesting immediate assistance. She types a response, recommend immediate evacuation of all uninfected individuals from quarantine zone. Establish hard perimeter at minimum 5-mile radius. Prepare for possible sterilization protocol. She hesitates before hitting send. Sterilization protocol. The euphemism for what was done to the American city. Is she really recommending they do it again? Incinerate 50,000 people to stop the spread? She thinks about the alternative. What happens if Tokyo falls? If 14 million people are infected, the parasite would spread across Japan within weeks, reach Korea, China, Southeast Asia within a month, become a global pandemic within a year. She hits them. 11:28 a.m. The Japanese Prime Minister receives Dr. Chen's recommendation. He stares at the words on the screen. Evacuation, hard perimeter, sterilization protocol. She's telling him to bomb his own city. He calls an emergency meeting with his cabinet. They gather in a secure room, faces grim. The discussion is heated. Some argue for immediate military action following the American precedent. Others insist there must be another way, some method of containment that doesn't involve mass casualties. The Prime Minister listens to all perspectives. Then he makes a decision. We evacuate the uninfected. We give them 6 hours to get out. Everyone who can prove they haven't been exposed, they go. Everyone else stays. And after 6 hours, we establish a hard perimeter. Nobody else leaves. If the situation continues to deteriorate, we consider more extreme measures. It's a compromise, a delay, maybe a mistake, but he can't bring himself to order the immediate destruction of 50,000 citizens. Not yet. 11:53 a.m. The evacuation order goes out to the quarantine zone. All residents, you have 6 hours to evacuate. Proceed to designated checkpoints. Medical screening will be conducted. Those showing no signs of infection or exposure will be permitted to leave. Those showing symptoms will be retained for treatment. The announcement is broadcast on every available channel. Radio, TV, loudspeakers mounted on military vehicles. It's a lie, of course. There is no treatment, but they can't tell people that. People in the zone react with a mixture of relief and suspicion. Relief that they might escape. Suspicion that it's a trap. Many head for the checkpoints immediately. Others hesitate, remembering rumors about the American city, about how everyone there died regardless of infection status. 12:17 p.m. The checkpoints are overwhelmed within minutes. Thousands of people pushing toward the barriers, desperate to escape. The soldiers try to maintain order, but it's chaos. Some people are clearly infected. Their behavior is erratic, aggressive. They attack others in the crowd, spreading the parasite even as people wait for evacuation. The soldiers open fire, trying to take down the infected before they cause more damage. But shooting into a dense crowd is a nightmare scenario. Innocent people are hit. Panic escalates. The orderly evacuation becomes a stampede. 12:41 p.m. Akiko Tanaka's daughter is in one of the evacuation vehicles heading away from the quarantine zone. She's sitting between two other refugees, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She's quiet now. The crying has stopped. She's gone numb, unable to process what's happened. The parasite is multiplying in her bloodstream, racing toward her brain. She has maybe an hour before the symptoms appear, but nobody knows. She passed the medical screening, no visible wounds, no signs of infection. She looks like a survivor. 1:04 p.m. The vehicle convoy reaches a processing center 10 miles from the quarantine zone. The refugees are being taken to temporary shelters, given food and water, assigned spaces to sleep. There are hundreds of them already, more arriving every minute. Aid workers are overwhelmed but trying their best. Nobody notices when the young girl starts trembling, when her eyes lose focus, when her breathing becomes rapid and shallow. The parasite is reaching her brain. 1:27 p.m. The girl stands up suddenly, knocking over the water cup in front of her. An aid worker approaches. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" The girl looks at her with empty eyes and bites her face. The aid worker screams, falling backward. The girl releases her grip and turns to the nearest person, a middle-aged man. She lunges at him. Teeth bared. Chaos erupts in the shelter. 1:33 p.m. Within minutes, 5 people are bitten at the shelter. Security personnel try to subdue the girl, but she fights with inhuman strength. It takes 4 adults to hold her down, and by then she's bitten 3 more people. The shelter is locked down immediately. Everyone inside is trapped, and the parasite is spreading again, outside the quarantine zone, in a facility specifically set up to protect refugees. The containment has failed. 1:58 p.m. Dr. Chen's plane is approaching Japanese air